Hi everyone, this is Ascension Lab. I just recorded my first video for Slay the Spire 2, and of course I forgot to record the audio, so for this part of the video, for Act 1, I'm going to be doing a voiceover. I've been playing the Regent a lot. I have about 150 hours in the game, and I went on both a 6 and a 4 win streak on the Regent in Ascension 10, so I'm pretty confident in my skills on this character, and I want to provide some insight. Now, for the starting relic, I don't think Booming Conch is ever very good. It can. I think it would be okay if it drew 2 additional cards for each turn in an elite fight, but it doesn't do that. Niao's Fury is very speculative because you are. It has synergies with decent cards, but you don't know if you're going to get them. Leafy Poultice, Transform a Strike and a Defend is obviously very good, and so I almost always take it when I see it. The 10 max HP for the Transform a Strike and Defend is always worth it, in my opinion. And so I ended up taking that over the other two options. And I got Kingly Kick and Black Hole. Kingly Kick is good if you have other commons that enable it. And Black Hole obviously goes very well with Star Generation and Star Spending. Cosmic Indifference synergizes well with Kingly Kick, and so does Photon Cut, because you can keep on putting it at the top of your deck and getting the cost down to very low pretty quickly. And in the final fight against the Matriarch, it does quite a lot because you have 3 turns to set it up such that it's a 0 cost attack early on. So I took it. So I wanted to kind of build around Kingly Kick because it's very nice for this boss in this act. For the pathing on Regent, I generally try to avoid early elites unless I feel very strong. And I think Regent requires more setup than other characters to actually have a strong deck. I have felt strong with some combos like Heavenly Drill and Devastate early on. Well, Devastate with decent star generation. And I don't feel too strong with the 2 transforms I got. Black Hole is nice for AoE, but at most it'll probably get me 9 damage in an elite combat fight. And this path on the right has lots of campfires. It has a shop near the end so I can save up some money and maybe buy a nice relic. And I ended up taking this path on the right. Both were viable, but the left one forced me into an elite fight somewhat early on. No, wait, sorry. The right one did force me into an elite fight near the end. This left one just had too many question mark tiles, and I was worried that I wouldn't power spike very hard. In this combat, I was stuck in a spot where I got to play all my cards, but I took 1 chip damage because that's just how it ends up sometimes with these early fights. You're going to take chip damage on Ascension 10. I played the blue hole first for the extra damage. I got my stars back and I played Fallen Strike. Now, Kingly Kick won't kill here because it only does 18 damage, so the best option was 2 defense and a strike and taking 2 chip damage. If Kingly Kick killed, obviously I would have taken it, but I couldn't. We got lucky and pulled it again, and we're no longer frail, so this actually kills. So we just pretty safe combat. Power Potion is not such a strong elite potion early on for this character, and that's because most of the power cards don't give you an immediate power spike. If you're looking at the list here now with me, Pillar of Creation won't do much unless you're creating cards, which we're not in this deck. Pale Blue Dot won't do a whole lot because we're not generally playing 5 or more cards. Another Black Hole would be okay. Trial of the Stars would give some defense, but I think it's more of like a mid to late game defense scaling thing. Furnace, actually, that would be an okay option for an early elite because, say it goes on 3 or 4 turns, we'll get 16 Forge, and we could finish off an elite with the sword. Spectrum Shift I also think is pretty good because the colorless pool in this is much better compared to Slay the Spire 1, but it's also variable. Like, we don't know for certain. Arsenal wouldn't do anything for us because we don't have any colorless generation. Seeking Edge, I've had some really nice elite fights early on with Seeking Edge. I think it's a huge power spike. If you get a few strikes off plus Seeking Edge, you can get a very strong sword from that with a lot of forge early on. Genesis wouldn't do a whole lot because we only have one card that actually requires stars, and we already have star generation to account for that, generally speaking. It'd be nice, and it would synergize well with Black Hole, but I don't think a power potion is power spiking us too hard. Now, I think Glow is the best common on this character, generally speaking. I think all three of these commons are very good. I don't think Know Thy Place I think Know Thy Place was the weakest option here because we already have a small deck where we're going to be playing Falling Star a lot and getting vulnerable, and we constantly. Cosmic Indifference would make sure that we can play Kingly Kick more than once per run, and we make sure we can keep on lowering that cost so we end up taking it. Glow is also synergistic with Kingly Kick, but not as directly synergistic. It would help us draw it more often, but it wouldn't put it at the top of our draw pool frequently. Now here we have Kingly Kick, which deals 24 damage, and we can just one-shot the one on the right, and we won't take any damage. We also, next turn it's worth noting that the left fish always does 12 damage after it buffs itself, and it gives itself thorns. So I'm generally just looking to block on this turn and then attack next turn, but we didn't get the defense we needed here. So I just ended up playing Black Hole in this. I didn't want to strike it because I didn't want to take the damage from thorns. And here we get sufficient block to not take damage. And so that's what we did. I was looking at the discard pile there. I wish my recording messed up live, and I was much more insightful during these comments than I will be on this because I'm speeding it up a bit. Okay, so out of these, I don't think Spoils of Battle is very synergistic at all with our deck. It just doesn't fit in, and I don't know when we would get the chance to cast a sword. Hegemony, we don't have extreme energy costs in this deck as of right now, and we already have a pretty high cost attack that deals more than it, so I was not leaning towards it. Glimmer, card draw in general goes well with Kingly Kick because you're going to be drawing it more often, or you're going to be drawing Cosmic Indifference, so you can put it at the top of your deck more. So that's what I went with. It can also itself put Kingly Kick at the top of the deck, so I think it's a very good card with Kingly Kick, and that's what we took. Now, this path has 3 elites, and I wanted to take Sword of Stone because losing these little events where you're taking 6 and 7 health of chunk damage, it really does add up, and elites in this game are not a joke. You want to not take much damage before leading into it because they can often deal 30 or 40 damage, sometimes more than that, even if you play it correctly. And so I was feeling somewhat confident, and I took Sword of Stone here, but that was mostly because I did not want to take the chunk damage. That's 6 damage. It might seem minuscule, but just trust me, in Ascension 10, every little bit helps. I was looking to get Kingly Kick with that draw, and I didn't. So I played Black Hole instead, and I blocked the damage. And I put Glimmer on top of the deck so I could draw again. And here we didn't get enough to properly defend, so I wanted to play a power card to see if I could minimize the damage we're taking if I wanted to fight more elites in this route. Monarch's Gaze was the only card here that actually did anything, so I struck the one on the left and defended twice. That was the way I would take the least amount of damage. And I knew my upcoming turn was pretty nice because when you kill one, the other one doesn't attack the following turn. And I knew I could kill one of them with Kingly Kick. And so that's what I did. And I was pretty well set up for the rest of the combo because fighting the Corpse Slug one-on-one when the other one's dead generally isn't such a hard fight. I was thinking, should I play Falling Star here or not on it? Because I would almost prefer to not have to play Venerate again and use Falling Stars plus Kingly Kick. But then when it has 29 health, I wanted to put it in lethal range such that I wanted to put it in lethal range with a kingly kick, but a falling star plus a strike did that anyways. Patter is the most underrated card in the common pool for Regent, in my opinion. I didn't think Bullock would do too much. 13 block is nice, sure, but like I mentioned in the last card reward, I don't think Forge did a whole lot for me here. Genesis is nice mid to late game when you already have some card draw and energy generation, but 2 costs for it just wouldn't pay off in these early combats, and I need power spikes right now so I can actually get through Act 1. Patter. 8 block for 1 cost, and if you upgrade it, it gives 10 block and 3 vigor. There's so many cards that synergize well with vigor in this deck, and so I actually am a big fan of Patter. From both a block standpoint, it gives a lot of value, and then also at the very least it'll give you 2 more damage on any attack, and sometimes more than that if it's a multi-hit. And I found a lot of my wins come from using things like Stardust, which love using vigor, obviously. And so I thought it was the best option, and it spiked my deck pretty quickly. Now, I wasn't sure if I wanted to rest or smith. I knew I had another campfire after this combat, and so I did end up smithing because I knew I could rest again afterwards. I was hesitant to take the elite on the left, even over a hard pool hallway, just because I think it was a bit too risky and every little bit of health mattered here. And if my goal here is to actually win the run, then it wouldn't make much sense to me to fight 3 elites, even with Sword of Stone. I just don't think I was immediately strong enough. I think my deck was still in the process of getting set up and it was going to be strong, but I just didn't think I'd be able to survive several elites with only 1 heal in between. And out of the upgrades here, I think Falling Star is a great upgrade. It's a 0 cost, so you're going to be playing it pretty much whenever you get it, if you have the stars for it, which we kind of do. And it goes from 7 damage to 11, which is a 5 damage jump. And Kingly Kick was the other option. That gives 6 more, but I think we're going to be playing Falling Star more often. We're only going to be playing Kingly Kick really after we get the cost down, although it's still high on the priority list for upgrading. Falling Star, for me, would just give more damage overall early on than Kingly Kick. The other upgrades are nice as well in my deck, but I just felt like for right now, getting stronger and surviving Act 1, they wouldn't provide as much value as getting either 5 damage or 6 damage on the upgrades. And so I'm contemplating here, do I want to actually fight this elite or the normal pool or the normal hallway? And I ended up going with the hallway fight because I just needed to stay healthy and I wanted to maintain as much health as possible. This was obviously not the ideal draw, and so I even popped a colorless potion in hopes I would get something that would let me block, and unfortunately that doesn't end up being the case. We get some damage off at the very least, and none of these help with blocking, and Prowess was the only one that would really do much of anything. Fasten would, but not this turn directly, and I was more so looking for this turn impact because I didn't want to take the 11 flat. So I take 8 instead due to weakness. Not a great turn. And so I play Black Hole because that's the only real damage card I have here, but Glimmer is also what I wanted to play because I want to get Kingly Kick's cost down a bit. And so I also wanted to get Falling Star in the same turn next turn so we could have a lethal, so we could be vulnerable and we could do lethal with Kingly Kick and Falling Star. I generally speaking like Hidden Cache a lot. It's a staple star generation, but it's a speculative, meaning you're going to get the stars in the following turn. We don't have any star demand in our deck right now. We only have our Falling Star Plus, and so I figure I could take it and it would probably be useful in this run. However, I wasn't feeling too hot on it because I needed to be strong now to fight this upcoming elite that we're forced to fight. I think Vigor in general is just a slept-on stat on Regent, and so I did end up taking Terraforming for that 6 Vigor. At worst, it's the same as playing a strike on your attack, but if you get an attack that hits multiple times, then for each hit, you're basically playing another strike with terraforming, and I think that's huge value, especially since we already have Vigor in our deck. We could very easily slot in a multi-hit. Celestial Might was an option. I didn't think it was terrible. I don't think any of these options were bad. However, my issue with Celestial Might is that it's simply, we already have an attack that we're building around, and we kind of want to keep our deck thin so we can keep playing that attack, and that would just end up being another high cost that we can't really play. Now, obviously in this fight, the Damn Cultist scales faster, but not as quickly, and the one on the left scales quickly, but not as fast. And so, in my deck, I was thinking, can I take these things out quickly? If so, then I should take out the left one fast, and then take out the right. And that's what I ended up going for. You can see here, Vigor is basically just another strike, and I quite like it. Now, obviously I'm aiming to get Kingly Kick next turn, so I can take out the Cultist on the left. And that's what I ended up going for. I also put Patter up, so because I knew the one on the right would be tagging for 11 next turn, and I would need a bit more block. So here I just happily put the Cultist on the left in lethal range of Kingly Kick with a strike, and I take 3 damage. I could have blocked for 3 more, but in the long term this definitely did save me HP. And so I take him out, and I kind of need to take the 9 damage here because you need to kill them fast or you're not going to scale. I weaken him so he's only hitting for 11, and I'm looking at my draw deck and I'm thinking, please pull Kingly Kick, because then I could probably get him quite low, and that would be ideal. But also, I know for certain I'm probably going to pull it next turn. Well, there's a high chance of it. And so instead, I strike and defend, because if I do that, I know that he's going to be near lethal, and I get the draw that I wanted with Kingly Kick. And so we did take some chunk here, but that's all I can do. Photon Card, as I mentioned at the start of the run, is a nice setup with Kingly Kick, because you can keep putting it on the top of your draw pile early on. Kassar just doesn't fit with the theme of our deck at all right now. I'm not trying to crap on the colorless pool here, but to me it just didn't make sense. It would be a waste of stars when I have a Fallen Star Plus, and I just didn't want it. Crush Under is really good too, especially for AoE combats, and we don't have any AoE damage in this deck, but it would feel a bit off theme. And so I didn't actually end up taking it. Photon Cut Plus is really nice too. It almost feels like a pummel strike to me with 13 damage. Sure, you need to put 1 card in the top of your draw pile, but I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I think it's situational. Here was a bit tricky because I had a shop coming up, but also I wasn't as healthy as I wanted to be because I did take too much damage in that Cultist fight. And so I'm thinking I at least want to remove a card in the next shop. I have 183 gold. I think it's a good idea for me to just spend down if the options are good, such that I would still be able to remove a card, but also I'd be able to get a bit more healthy here. So I gained 8 max health total. I upgraded a strike, I believe. And generally speaking, I think this is a pretty nice event. For 35 gold, you generally get a nice value out of it. And I also lost max HP from my starting relic, so I was happy to kind of recuperate that here. I didn't end up healing the 10 because there's a chance that I would not have enough gold to get the remove at the next shop. So I just ended up leaving, because while it was very likely that I would have enough gold from the elite fight, and also I didn't know this would be a combat, I didn't know if I would get something that would give me gold, but I figured in hindsight I might have actually went with healing there just to play it a bit more safe, because I was pretty confident in my ability to beat the Act 1 boss with my current deck if I could get Kingly King set up, which would be very easy to do with this deck. And so I did actually, I was more so worried about the elite fight coming up, because there are some pretty scary elites in the docks. And so if I could go back, I would probably actually do the heal. This was a pretty easy combat. I didn't feel the need to say too much. I did take some chunk damage. but I ended up winning. I'm going into the elite combat with 33 health, which does worry me because it's pretty common to take a lot of damage in these elite combats, especially without potions. So I thought maybe the run is not in a good spot here. I thought Know Thy Place was a nice card reward here because it would make it so that we can more consistently use Kingly Kick when the enemy is vulnerable. Pale Blue Dot doesn't do much of anything for us because we're not playing 5 or more cards very often. Although you could, in theory, play Falling Star Plus and Know Thy Place, and then you could do it, but then you would only get 1 extra card draw. It just doesn't give much to me right now. And another Photon Cut, while it does fit the theme of the deck, I just didn't feel the need to add it. I didn't think that it would make too much of a difference from just having 1, and it would make it less likely to draw my defensive cards. Now here, I am just trying to get my Kingly Kick at a low cost as fast as possible, and that's what I end up doing. Here I want to play it again because 2 costs for 24 damage, not bad. And also I got some Vigor off, so a bit more damage. I was playing the Photon Cut and hoped that I would get... So basically in this fight, I tried to not proc below 76 health if I can still block his damage. And so that was a nice turn because he was going to do unblocked damage to me and a lot of it, and I was able to stop that using his passive. Sometimes it's worth it to just wait around 76 health if you can block and just try to either set up, and you want to proc him his under 50% health passive in a useful way such that you're not taking damage because of it. Now here is a pretty strong turn on his end. I felt a bit worried, but then I realized, okay, I do have lethal with my Vigor, Falling Star, and Strike. So thankfully, this could have been very bad, but we just barely had enough damage to actually get lethal here, and the show goes on. Here, I didn't think any of these card rewards added to our deck. Radiate's good if you're having heavy star generation, but we really don't. At most, we'd get it on a turn with Venerate, and it would deal 6 to all people. Even for 0 cost, I don't think it's worth bloating our deck more over that. Spectrum Shift I actually thought would be an okay power for the Matriarch, but generally speaking, I felt strong enough to beat it already with our Kingly Kick setup. And I don't think it was necessary. If I felt like there was a good chance of us losing, I actually might have taken that, but I didn't feel like it was necessary. And the Rotten War, I generally don't think Forge is going to fit well into this deck. And the 7 damage you get outside of that just doesn't feel like it provides a lot of value. Here I'm looking at the colorless stack because I just wanted to show that there's a lot of colorless cards and Spectrum Shift is just a bit inconsistent. And here I could afford a Glow, but I valued a remove more than either another Patter or Glow. And that's because I just want to draw into Kingly Kick as much as possible and keep this deck as consistently as possible. And while Glow is really nice, especially Glow Plus, it's a common card, so there's a good chance I'll find it again. There's other means of card draw in this deck, and to me, just a more consistent deck was better than adding to it. I could still afford a Pale Blue Dot, but as I discussed in 2 card rewards ago, I just didn't see much value in it. And so I ended up just taking my card remove and moving on. Here, I removed another card. I'm trying to remove as many strikes as possible because I still want to be able to defend and kind of stall until I can keep getting Kingly Kick consistently, so I just want to remove strikes. And there are 5 out of 16 of my cards are still like base strike and defense, and I value a smaller deck rather than potentially upgrading 2 of those. And I didn't feel like my other upgrades were really that good in terms of, well, Kingly Kick upgrade's obviously very strong, 6 more damage per cast, I'm planning on spamming it. But there's a 1 in 16 chance of me getting that. I would rather just be able to pull it more consistently. Now this is the best case scenario because I have Kingly Kick in my hand, and Glimmer, I can use Glimmer to put it at the top of my deck, and also Photon Cut, which deals 10 damage, so it won't wake up the Matriarch. I can put it back up, I'll put it at the top, and then I draw it again and put it back on top again. It is already now at a 1 cost, and I can use Cosmic Indifference as well to put Glimmer back in my deck and get my stars up a bit. And so that's what I do. And you see that Kingly Kick's already at 1 cost, and right now I'm really just trying to set up, and I want it to be a 0 cost. So I have my Vigor up now. Next turn I'm going to draw it again for certain, along with my Power, which will make it so that I deal AoE damage for each star spent and received, and I'm just trying to get a big attack off here. I have Vulnerable as well with my I have Vulnerable as well with Know Thy Place, which is really helpful with Kingly Kick. I get a pretty nice attack off here, 57 damage. And with Photon Cut and Cosmic Indifference, I can get this card in my deck very often. As you can see here, I am playing it, I'm getting it back up. I know for certain that is another 0 cost, 24 damage. And so having a high damage card is really nice because this boss obviously debuffs your strength. So if you have a multi-hit attack that is hitting multiple times for a lot of damage, it's not as good as just like one big attack. And so here I attack again, and I'm just trying to get this, basically just keep on trying to cycle this card in my deck using Cosmic Indifference and Glimmer. And it's generally speaking going pretty well. I've gotten it in all my hands except for one, I believe. Here I decide that I should probably play Star instead of Strike just because I want to set up Vulnerable again on him for a nice turn. And so that's what I'm going for here. The rest of the combat's pretty straightforward. He's debuffing me next turn, but I'm 43 health, so I feel pretty healthy about this. I don't feel like I'm at danger of losing the run, if that makes sense, because I have a very strong 0 cost attack. I have decent defense, and so I'm okay with also taking a bit of damage because you heal for 80% at the end of the act. And I didn't want to risk getting to another debuff turn from the Matriarch. So I ended up striking here instead of blocking again, I believe. Or, no, actually I ended up blocking because it made more sense because I knew I would have a lethal turn coming up with my Kingly Kicks and whatnot before the debuff turn. I realized that there was no way I wouldn't be able to take him down before then, so blocking there made more sense. And in general, I felt like after the first card draw, I kind of knew that this was going to be a smoother combat. It did get a bit close because I didn't know, there was no point in striking here because I knew that I would get more, I would get a Kingly Kick in the next hand, so I didn't even bother. And then the Matriarch is dead. So here I